All right, welcome back to our intro to Kabbalah. Today we're going to talk about light and enlightenment, and so on and so forth. We've mentioned before that the purpose of creation is really to do what we call letaken olam b'malchut Shaddai, to fix the world in the kingdom of Hashem. And that tikkun, that fix-up is going to be done by choosing people, us, that will be, to do the melacha, to do this tikkun by doing avodat Hashem, worshiping Hashem, serving Hashem, by people who have a choice. That's the way to do the tikkun. To do the tikkun with people that have no choice is not going to do it. So we find the will of Kadosh Baruch Hu, of God on one hand, and then on the other hand, we find the creation, the people that have the job to do the will of Hashem. And when a person wants to reveal his ratzon, he could, for example, you could speak, you could talk, you could communicate in many different ways. So of course the question is asked, how could God, or what is the way in which God reveals his will to the people who has a free choice? How do we, as being the creation, how do we know, or what do we need to do, and how we need to behave according to that? The answer to that will be that the will of God, the will of Hashem, is being revealed by what we call the lights in which he sends to his creation, to us. That the simplest explanation to the concept of what we call enlightenment is something like a internal inspiration, like a certain unexplained urge to do this or to do the other. And that enlightenment means the bestowing of light upon us, is like a beacon that guides us from a superior a spiritual place to do what we need to do. And many times we feel that. We see people that all of a sudden choose to do the right thing, or they, let's say, decided to let's say, leave everything and dedicate their life to learn Torah, right? So that dedication to learn Torah comes from somewhere. It doesn't come from the need to say, oh, you know what, let me make $500 in kollel, and therefore I could sit down and live in prosperity, and so on and so forth. People need to understand that when people decide to join a kollel, it is through tremendous sacrifice that they will have to do. However, to them, that sacrifice is not really a big inyan, because they are being moved and directed from a higher place. And that's why when people start to complain about, oh, the guy sitting down in kollel with a bunch of leeches, I want to see you becoming a leech over $500 or even $1,000 a month to sit down and learn. So therefore, you could tell that when people complain about those guys who sit down in kollel to learn, it really comes from a dark place. It doesn't come from an enlightened place. The greatest sages, the greatest masters of Jewish mysticism explain that the will of the Creator comes to the creation, or to the creator, to those who've been created, in other words, to people, in a form of sparkling flashes, almost like a beacons of light that comes from the sun. Sometimes you see it through the cloud. You know, you drive somewhere. I love it. You go somewhere to a desert highway, and you can only see it like this when it's open. It's like a vast open area, and then you see clouds, and there's a little hole in the sky, and you really see the light come from it. It's like I call it the moments of Genesis. Like Zman Bereshit, but you see the light coming through. So that's the enlightenment. The spiritual enlightenment comes in such and such a way. The masters of Kabbalah uses the term or the words light and enlightenment, and we really see maybe later on the difference between the two as the will of God that was sent from its source to or towards the towards creation itself. Now the Ramchal in his Sefer Kalach Pitche Chochmah, 138 gates of wisdom, refers to it, and I'm quoting, and he says the following. It's in Petach Hey over there. He says, Ki hine hasferot, the spheres, hem masha elokut mitpashet, the vehicle or the apparatus in which God spreads into this world. Achit pashtut ha'elokit, that spreading of the divine flow down, lo nochal likro otam ki im ha'aran. That's how the only way we can refer to it, we call it light or enlightenment. And in the Sefer, which is called, the name of the Sefer is called Chokeru Mekubal, and Amud in page 5, it says, Ki ha'e'ara, that enlightenment, hu mashe ha'ma'or, it's the original source, notzetz, shines down, umeshalech mimeno, and from itself generates that light, mimeno nikra e'ara. That is called enlightenment. In other words, Masha Don Rotze, whatever is the master, you get a revelation of what the master wants to reveal and to reveal to you. So therefore, I can tell you this, a person who is not driven spiritually to do the right thing, it is should be very scared. When a person is not driven to do a certain mitzvah, or is not driven to do the right thing, I would tell you, a person like this should take a very good look at himself and really wonder, why is it that I'm not feeling that? That means that you are not, not maybe chas v'shalom to say, but not, not so wanted to be taken apart, to be a part of this, what we call tikkun olam. And a person should wonder, why is this? Now, if, for example, you said, I don't feel like learning Torah, you should say, look, why is this? I'm not driven to learn Torah. Needless to say that on the contrary, on the other hand, if you are always negative about people who learn Torah, or you are negative about Chachamim and so on and so forth, or you don't, and you pick on the words of Torah to be bad or this, chas v'shalom, or something like that, then I can tell you the light that would come on you, it's not really light, it's the choshech, like in Mitzrayim. It's the dark matter that comes on you from the other side, or the negative light is being shown on you, that is really does a number on you. And one should be very, very, careful about these things and quite aware about this. Now, the same thing as in the physical world, the light itself is the source of the light, right? In other words, when something shines through that light, I am basically shining. Let's say I have a flashlight. The light that the flashlight generates is the flashlight itself. It's just extending itself to a further place. And the he'ara, what we call the enlightenment, is the result of what comes out of that light, the action. So therefore, in the language of Kabbalah, it's the same thing. The light refers to the source itself, and the enlightenment is the result of that light reaching out an object, or that's the result of that. To the essence of the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we call the light, that's the will, the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We call it therefore in the Kabbalah light. And to the ratzon of the nishlach, to the will of the person which was sent from him, that's what we call he'ara. So, for example, if I have a candle or flashlight, right? So the light of the candle is the light itself. And the result of the exposing of that light in the world, we call he'ara, or what comes out with it, we call he'ara. And to what we are saying in terms of Kabbalah, the light of the Ein Sof is the essence, right? Is the essence of the light, and the he'ara, the enlightenment, is what comes out and spread out of it. So when a person is enlightened, don't think that a person is enlightened to do chas v'shalom averot and so on and so forth. A person who is enlightened is a person that has been revealed to exactly what God wants him to do in this world. Of course, we're not talking about a person who is experiencing hallucination or psychosis. Talking about the real thing and an internal drive to do something that you know that God wants you to do. And that drive means that you were connected to that. So if, for example, you're feeling like throwing out the whole world behind you and dedicate yourself to the light of Torah, you should be very, very happy and feel very flattered and therefore very concerned to actually do that. It's something that many people experience, and then all of a sudden, then the Amalek comes, the fear comes, or what will have to be with Parnasa. You think that God would leave you alone. He wants you to do something, and he's going to leave you alone. There's going to be a way for you. And you should be so flattered, and so, and yet very, very cautious about this, because you're saying, God chose me from all these people to reveal his will. In other words, you removed a certain curtain from your behemoth essence, and you were being bestowed upon divine light, and then you're going to throw it away for the fear. Of course, you're going to do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to do. And this is something for all of you to think. And think about, you all know how important it is to sit down and learn Torah. You all know that. And therefore, think about what is that you are doing so quickly to turn off the light and throw it away so you cannot learn Torah. I would be very concerned with it. I will be very concerned. And it's a point, and I'm sure you can all refer to what I'm talking about in terms of knowing how to do things, and everybody knows exactly what they're feeling. I really feel like I want to learn. I know that this is the right thing to do, and yet somehow I find a reason not to. What are you afraid from? What are you afraid from? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank our dear friend Navid that is in LA, who helped us a little bit with the yeshiva, which is wonderful and is well received and well appreciated. And so is to all the other people who helped us with the yeshiva, especially Rachel Chaya Bat Sarah. These are people who said, listen, I know what needs to be done. They operate out of a sense of internal drive. They know that Torah needs to be survived. The Torah, and we need to support institutions that promote Torah. And regardless of all sense, people say, save your money. It's not. They say, no, Torah has to go on. These people that operate, these are the Ba'alei Chesed. It means, why we call them Ba'alei Chesed? A person that does a lot of Chesed means that the Sfera of Chesed, the light that comes from the Sfera of Chesed, is shining upon them. And it reveals within them the need to do so. And for a person who threw everything and says, Chavtza nafshi b'Torah, like let's say Rabbi Akiva or other people, and we have our own Rabbi Akivas in our generation. And Rabbi Akiva in our generation, I don't necessarily refer to as great as Rabbi Akiva, but we're talking about the action that these people did. The action that people did was throw away everything they had, and they said, you know what? I am dedicating my life to Torah. In other words, by doing so, they reveal that the sfera and the attribute that comes from them, it's the highest one. The fact that they want to be crowning themselves with the crown of Torah shows that these people, at that moment that they say, Chavtza nafshi b'Torah, right? Chavtza nafshi b'Torah, it means that the light from the sfera of Keter is being shined upon them. So now you're going to take it, they're going to throw it away. You should, it's like I will tell you, I gave you a whole, I don't know, a diamond mine that produces polished diamonds. You know, throw this away. That means that if you really want to learn Torah, the light that is shining from you is this from the Sfera of Keter, and therefore you have to do so. And now, if you all of a sudden say, oh, no, you know what, say, today I'm feeling weak, that means something that is wrong with you. Light, it's like And we spoke about water that is kasher l'netilat yadayim. You have water. You have the H2O, right? You have that water, but the water is murky. There's something in it, so it's not kasher l'netilat yadayim. That water is not appropriate to purify yourself. So you cannot do netilat yadayim. So you should be able to do whatever you can to purify your internal source of water that would allow, in other words, clean your internal vessels, that the light will shine on you. The spiritual light, that he'ara, the divine light to do the right thing. And therefore, if you want to know why we don't do the right thing, we don't do the right thing because the kli is dirty. Our vessels are dirty. And then we need to understand that, and we must understand that. And we need to do whatever we can to clean our internal vessel so the light will shine. The cleaner the vessel, the purer the light. Until the level of like Moshe Rabbeinu, we call it aspaklaria meria. In other words, the light that came through Moshe Rabbeinu is the way it came in, that's the way it came out, without any distortion. Pure, perfect. I wish we'll reach that level. I wish we'll reach a level that which will be a perfect prism, that the light comes out and comes out with all the colors of the rainbow. That's also a tremendous level. But the light that came to Moshe Rabbeinu is like the light of the color of a special type of white that included within it all the colors whatsoever. It was pure, and that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So now, as much as we explained this, now you need to take this and you need to really internalize what we were learning, what we just said, and if you'll be able to apply it. I think that life beyond that point is worthy to be called life. So the Mekubalim, the question is, why did the Mekubalim choose specifically to use the terms of light or enlightenment and so on and so forth? And there are a few reasons for that. Because light and enlightenment are both abstract concepts. They're not something, I would say, table. They're both abstract concepts, and therefore they will fit to really express ideas that have to do with the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. More than that, also in the physical enlightenment, which we know has a similar tendencies to spiritual enlightenment as well. For example, if we are talking about a physical light that comes out from the source without separating from the source, right? So therefore, we're saying that, what does it mean? It means that every ray of light continues to receive its essence and its qualities from its source directly. Therefore, if the source of the light is going to stop, the enlightenment will stop itself. It depends on the distance, of course. I mean, it depends on the distance. I mean, let's say, for example, if God forbid the sun, all of a sudden somebody turn off the switch on the light of the sun. Yes, it will take us 8 minutes, until we're going to be Chas v'Shalom in complete darkness. But that means that there is a disconnect from the source. In other words, the source of light has been disconnected. So we're going to be at night. Yes, it's going to take time. But it means that even then it's going to be a gradual change in temperature and intensity of the light itself. So therefore, that's what I said to you before. A person that does not experience a spiritual need to do basically avodat Hashem should be very concerned, because it shows that he is disconnected from its source. And that's why he needs to immediately do tshuva, repentance, to reconnect himself with its source. Lechaber et mekoro, to connect himself to its source, to his makor. So you could really tell where you are holding spiritually based on your drives inside, your initiation to do the right thing. Do you get up in the morning to learn Torah? It's like, oh God, I have to learn Torah again. So why are you learning? I don't know. I have nothing better to do. I'm afraid to go to hell, whatever it is. Or you're saying, oh, Baruch Hashem, I'm alive. I can learn another day today. That's totally different ways of existence. A person should really be concerned if he should say, oh, I can't wait until I'm done with this. I can go back to the world, or go make a career of living and so on and so forth. What are you saying? Do you understand what you're saying? if tzemeah v'gam chashka nafshi, my soul is thirsty and desires to get closer to Elokim Chaim or Melech Olam, I should be rejoicing. It means it's good. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is shining upon me his heavenly light. He wants me. My actions are welcomed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why he's giving me this light. But if I am in darkness and I say, oh, they color guys, they don't want to learn, there's Rabbanim are leeches, and so on and so forth, it means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not, I'm in darkness. There was no light, because if there was a light, it would say, I'll throw everything behind me and I'll become a Talmid Chacham. I'll join a yeshiva whenever I can. And a person like this should be very concerned and very worried. Rabotai, you've got to really understand that, what I'm telling you. And for example, if we're going to get back again what we were saying in terms of light and so on and so forth, a tendency that we need to understand that everything in nature, right, has to have a certain is disconnected from its source, in order to have its existence. For example, and that's something that we there's an example for us when we are born. We are connected with your source. In other words, with your mother to the umbilical cord. You are expected at a certain point in the physical world, once you cut off, to be able to maintain your own system and your own self, both physically and psychologically. Spiritually, it's impossible to disconnect yourself from your source. Because if you're going to, and we need to understand it, if you see something is alive for a while. Because if you, for example, disconnect a flower from its source, right? The flower will crumble, but it's not going to disappear. However, if you're going to close the room with all the shadows, or there's not going to be light coming out. You're going to be in darkness. That's why the Mekubalim used the concept of light and enlightenment in explaining spiritual things. Because where did the light disappear when I turn off the light? I simply disconnected it in its source. I separated the source, and that's in the darkness. So if I'm in a bright room that has an exposure, let's say a southern exposure, I get sun there, and I close the shutters, and now it's dark, it means that what I did was disconnecting the light and preventing it from entering it. I connected the separation, and that's why the light was not able to come in. That's the same thing to your neshama. So, and this is an example of something that really could happen all the time. You need to be able to connect or to remove those obstacles that would prevent the light from coming and penetrating into you. And that's what we call all the time Mekor ha'or, and the Ha'ara, Mekor ha'or is the will of God, and the Ha'ara is the way that will of God has been reflected on you to actually understand the level of understanding that you have of what Ratzon Hashem is all about. And that is a tremendous, tremendous point to understand in the spiritual work that we all have to do. I would like to stop at this point, and I would like to continue next time, about the revelation of the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But I would like you to please go over and think about what we just said today. Don't just listen to it. This is not an entertainment venue. It's somewhere to guide you throughout your life or throughout your journey in the spiritual world in your life. Or actually how to live spiritually. I don't know, whichever way you want to put it together. So, but review what I said and then examine where you are, where you're holding. Kind of learn to feel yourself in terms of the spiritual entity, what is so-called yourself, what drives you, what gets you, and so on and so forth. Then you'll be able to fix things. These are very deep concepts, and these are concepts that most of you never heard before in their life, because we kind of made the spiritual work that we need to do almost a certain type of taboo. But I think the price is too great to pay when you don't live or you're not aware of that, because that's a tremendous prevention of actually living spiritual life that you can't really compare one over the other. Spiritual life is basically life with meaning that is a directed meaning. And most of us don't live like that. And without a doubt, most of us should not live and make decisions that are based out of fear. If you make decisions that are made out of fear, when you're afraid, when you're in darkness, and then we should learn from David HaMelech, Gam ki elech begei tzal mavet. If I'm going to walk in the valley of death, lo erara, I should not be afraid. Why? Kriyatai madi. So therefore, the whole acting of David HaMelech, even when King David, even when he was in great times, in great turbulence, he never allowed fear to be the catalyst in which make him do, or the reason which he makes decisions. His decisions making was based out of emunah, out of knowing and connecting himself to HaKadosh. Lo irara ki atai imadi, you are with me. In other words, I know, I trust that you're always going to want me to stay connected to you. And that's the level that David HaMelech was able to reach in his life as an example for us of what could be done. So Rabotai, slowly, we're going to develop more of a vocabulary. The most important thing is, as we started, way before that, is to get ourselves accustomed to the Kabbalistic vocabulary and what does it really mean. So when we're talking about lights, we're not talking about lights of, chakras and all kind of like stuff like this. That's shtuyot b'mitzvah, nonsense, absolutely nonsense. We're talking about the revelation of the will of God. That's in terms of that. So until then, boys and girls, please have a wonderful, stress-free day. And it's going to be a beginning of a day where we're going to start slowly revealing what the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants from us, and we'll have the courage to actually do it and to do what the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.